In the first part of this project, we're going to be creating a new After Effects document, importing all the necessary files into our projects folder, and building the composition in our timeline as well as our composition area. To get started on this first book project, you need to download the Chapter 2 project file, and inside of this file you'll find all of the footage necessary to complete the project. Once this is downloaded, you can go ahead and open up Adobe After Effects. From here, you can create a new project, and this will open up the After Effects Unit Project panel. Once it's opened, there's three main areas of the workspace that you need to be aware of. The Project panel displays important linked footage and stores all of the self-contained movies that we're going to be using for this project. In the middle is the Composition panel. This is used to compose, preview, and edit all of the footage and your layers. And then finally, the Timeline down at the bottom. The timeline shows how the structure of your composition is built. In this pane, it's usually divided into two sections. One section you'll see your layers, and the other section will give you the timeline and the duration of each of the layers and when they appear on your composition. As we start to build this will make a little bit more sense. One thing to note, if you're using After Effects, there's different ways you can view this arrangement. We want to make sure you're working in the standard view. Let's go up to Window, down to Workspace, and let's make sure Standard is selected. With Standard selected, this is going to rearrange some of your workspace, getting rid of some panels and placing others so that it's nice and neat so that you can find it. At any time, if you need to find anything, the Window drop-down menu is what's going to come in handy. Now, to start a new composition from scratch, you can click on the New Composition icon in the middle of your composition screen. And this dialog box allows you to set up the document exactly as you want it to be. We're going to set the composition's name to be comp_wonders deep. We're going to choose a preset size of HD DTV of 29.9 frames per second. We're also going to set the duration of this entire thing. The duration is loaded up under hours, minutes, seconds, and frames, and we want this to be exactly 10 seconds long. So make sure the second from the right one is selected. We can keep the background color as to be black, and we'll say OK. This will give us our new composition. Notice that you have a composition in your composition window, your project window. You've got a little black composition as your work area, and down on your timeline, you've now got a timeline lit up. Now that we've got a composition to work through, let's import some of the footage that we already have. We'll go up to File, down to Import, and choose File. From here, locate the Chapter 2 folder that has your footage. And the first thing we're going to open is the Deep Sea Scene Photoshop file. From here, make sure that you've got all accessible files enabled. In this case, it's a Photoshop file. And we're going to import this not as a footage, but as a composition that retains the layer styles. Everything else will say Open. This will take just a moment to import the settings into your composition setting. With this dialog box, we want to maintain editable layer styles and not merge everything together. So make sure editable layer styles is selected and say OK. Now notice in our composition window, we have a composition for the deep. If we want to see the entire name, we can click up here and drag it over. And we also have a folder with each subsequent layer that we can individually select. Keeping things in folders is a good way of managing your projects. Let's put these two compositions in a new folder. At the bottom of the project panel, we're going to click on the gray area to deselect everything, and then carefully click to create a new folder. Let's call this folder Comps. Click and drag both of the comps, for Wonders of the Deep and the Deep Scene, into this folder to place it inside of there. Now let's import an Illustrator file. Another way you can import things is simply by double-clicking on the open area of the project panel. This will open up your open file. Let's choose the Deep Title Illustrator file. Make sure your importing it as an Illustrator, PDF, or EPS, and import it as a regular composition. When we say open, again, this will bring it into your composition panel, both as a regular composition and also as a folder with all the individual layers that make up this composition. We need to get rid of the deep title composition by selecting it and pressing the delete key, and you can delete it away. Now let's import an image sequence. If you look at the footage that was given to us, let's see if I can pull the file back over here. There's an entire folder that has a shark swimming. Now this is an image sequence, meaning each of these images is a single frame of this 3D rendered shark. And this is common in a lot of animations. We want to bring this in not as a bunch of different pictures, but as one single composition of an animation. So let's go to File and Import. In this case, we're going to do a file again. Locate the 3D Shark Render folder, and you can do Command A to select all of the PNGs in this folder. With this done, choose PNG Sequence, and you can choose Open. Notice that this brings it in as a PNG, but it's a sequence. Now let's start putting some of these things together. Let's open up our comps folder and double click on the comp for the deep sea scene. This is going to open up in your workspace, and also you'll notice that the timeline shows all of the layers that are placed inside of it. You can see each one of these layers is selectable, and if we select it, we can also move things around. But right now, nothing is animated. Let's also bring in the title. Going back up to the deep sea title layers, open up that folder, and let's select all of these by holding down Shift and clicking on all of the layers. And let's drag it into the timeline till they are above the seaweed. You can see how it's highlighted here. Finally, let's choose our shark and drag him until he's just above the middle ground layer, so in between the middle ground and the sunlight. Now that our first motion graphics project is well on its way, let's save everything. You can do this by going up to File and down to Save. Notice this will ask you, where do you want to save your Adobe After Effects project? On the desktop, I'm going to make a new folder, and I'm going to call this Wonders of the Deep. And I'm going to put my name on this folder as well. We'll say Create. This will create an After Effects project, and we'll simply hit Save. In the next part of this exercise, we're going to animate the individual elements and use keyframes to do that.